Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited to be doing an unboxing and review of the Brewista Artisan Gooseneck Electric Kettle, which is this kettle here. I've had the stovetop version of the Brewista Artisan Kettle for nearly 5 years now, and it is my go-to kettle for whenever I make pour over coffee or make tea. Recently though, I wanted to switch over to making matcha in the morning to avoid coffee just as far as caffeine intake, and I didn't want to have to boil water in the morning, and so I thought a better option would be to get an electric kettle where I could set the temperature, have it kind of do its thing, and then come back and do the matcha at that time. So this is really doubling up for an overall kettle for tea, pour over coffee, just boiling water in general. And the benefit of it is with the electric kettle, you have a lot more control as compared to the stovetop kettle. And so what we'll do in this video is we'll first off discuss the Artisan Stovetop one, because I've had this for nearly 5 years. We'll look at issues it's had as far as use. I'll discuss kind of pluses, minuses of that. Then we'll walk through unboxing the Brewista kettle, the gooseneck electric one. We'll discuss all the features of that and show you both what it looks like out of the packaging, and then we will walk through boiling with it for the very first time to give you a sense of like the overall length of time it takes to boil from start to finish. As always, if you're interested in potentially purchasing either of these, both will be in the links below. So first off, the Brewista Artisan Kettle. I previously did a video on this a long time ago, but I've had this one for about 5 years now. And it is a phenomenal kettle. I've had really no issues as far as functionality here. Basically, it's going to be a virtually identical design to the electric one. It's got a gooseneck design that allows you to pour very easily. I even used this earlier today. It says Brewista on the side, has a lid here with 3 separate holes for a valve mechanism, and the lid goes straight on, and then a handle that's curved that's very ergonomic so that you can easily pour. As far as condition, as you can see with the stovetop version, putting it on the stove and cooking adjacent to it, there's some kind of stuff and debris on it, oil, stuff like that over time that's worn on it. I probably need to clean it a little bit. The bottom does have some debris and kind of stuff like that, so I just pulled this off. I didn't clean it for the video, but that's the general condition there. And then as far as the handle, so this is their gold version with the wood style. On the top here, there's no issues really as far as blemishes, a little bit maybe after 5 years of use on the top lid. However, on the handle, there is some wear along the edges and the back side here. And I'll state that the biggest factor that contributed to that was actually putting it in the dishwasher. So there was one time where I put in the dishwasher and I noticed this whole area afterwards, which is really unfortunate because it's a beautiful kettle with the wood design. But know that it's not real wood, it's just layered on this. And over time, with routine use, it will chip and fade and stuff like that. However, I mean, that was probably about 2 years into it that I started noticing those issues. And to be honest, I don't care because I've had this for 5 years and it functions great, so I'm still going to use it, and I'm not going to replace it because I love it. So that's the thing there. As far as the inside here, it's pretty clean, no issues. There's no rust, corrosion, or anything like that. It does have a screw on the top here, even that's not rusted or corroded. So this kettle has been phenomenal. I love it. No complaints, would highly recommend it. This color though, I think they discontinued, you can't find it. The Brewista kettles come in a wide variety of color options, but the gold is very hard to find. As far as color options, both for the Brewista Artisan Stovetop and this one, they've got all white like this with a white stand. They have an all black version of this. They have a white with a wood design like this, so it's white with wood. The issue is the stand here for the charging station is black, so it doesn't go real well together. I wish it was all white with the wood, because that's probably what the color scheme I would go with, but I think it was out of stock or not available, at least on Amazon. Additionally, they have like this like rainbow color where it's basically like the white, but it's got this like iridescent color. And then they've got I think a couple others, but I don't recall which ones. But either way, wide variety of color options really for any style that you want. So pick whichever one you want. I went with the all white because it goes with all the rest of the appliances I have, and the wood accent didn't really match with the base, which was unfortunate. So as far as the Brewista Artisan Electric Kettle, there's some main features here we'll list on the front of the box. So it has a slow pour, so with this mechanism, it's not actually controlling it with the electric kettle, or the gooseneck kettle doesn't control it. Like the fellow Stag actually has a pour control method, so it only pours at one rate, and so you essentially have no control over pouring it faster or not, based on tilting it. The fellow Stag really just pours at the rate you have, which is a rate limiting factor, and it's kind of annoying because if you're pouring it for pour over coffee versus just getting hot water or matcha, it's very variable. So that's a nice factor, is that you can really control and have a lot of control. And when I've done pour over videos in the past, I have a lot of control from that standpoint. It's flash boil, so you can accelerate the boiling rate for speeding up that. It has precise temperature control, so there's a setting by 1 degree where you can set it higher or lower. For coffee, really it should be like, I think it's like 204 to 206 as far as the temperature, which with the electric kettle, typically what I've done in the past is I've had to use a thermometer. Usually it like boils over, and then I leave a thermometer in it, let the temperature to come down to about 205 degrees, and that's when I do the pour over pouring. But you have much less control as far as the temperature with this, versus the electric kettle, you have immediate control and control it directly to whatever degree temperature you want. So that's the real big feature, because if you're doing different types of tea, depending on white, green, black, whatever it might be, you have different brew temperatures for that. So this really opens the option as far as when you're brewing loose leaf tea, the versatility of brewing it at the right temperature for the tea. Additionally, for both pour over and tea, there's a setting on the base here that when you hit the setting, it has a built-in timer. So my coffee scale, the Timemore Black Mirror Plus, actually has a built-in timer that once you press it, it counts down to 3, and then it will measure the amount of time for pouring, so that allows you to brew the coffee by letting it steep or whatever it might be, I forget the term, and then pour over the rest. So it's a built-in timer. So this has a built-in timer, it's just incorporated into the pour over kettle rather than the scale. So depending on your setup, that's a nice feature, and I highly recommend having some sort of timer. Additionally, for tea specifically, there's certain its brew time. So when you pour it and you start steeping your tea, it'll allow you to brew it whatever length of time you need and not over brew it or under brew it. So it'll help facilitate optimizing the tea brewing. So that's the built-in timer. It also has a warming feature, so it'll keep it warm for a prolonged period of time. And then it also has Fahrenheit and Celsius features. So those are the main key features. It's all listed here on the side. The one feature that this does not have, that some others have, that I really, what I wanted to go with was a programming feature that you can program it ahead of time. So I wanted a kettle that would allow me to program it immediately, like a coffee feature where it like starts brewing at a certain time. So say I wake up at my normal time, 4:45 in the morning, I could set the time for that and then wake up, roll out of bed, and have this set so that it automatically brews and I can just pour when I need. However, when I ultimately, like looking at the different options, I think the fellow Stag had that and a couple others had that, but because of my loyalty with the prior Brewista Kettle and the fact that I already had this one, I really couldn't not go with this brand. But that's one consideration when you think about this, is it doesn't have that. And then there's a couple kettles that actually have app-based programming too, so you could actually go in your phone and program it for specific temperatures and starting it that way. That's all a lot of smart technology. Whether you would use it or not, I don't know. But that's one thing that this does not have compared to other ones. The packaging, there's a couple things here. We won't go over all the inserts, but there's a start guide, discusses the main features. We'll just open this all the way so you can see briefly. But it goes over all the main features, how to set it up, all the icons, what they mean, how to use it for the first time, what you should do, the features, components. setting up the kettle, all those sorts of things. So it's all included, and then it walks through all the different features and how to clean it, and descaling. So if your water is very hard, has a lot of mineral deposit, as you use this, if you boil over or boil repeatedly, you will have to descale that buildup over time. A lot of times you can use vinegar, but I'll look at the instructions. Additionally, there's a separate manual here with all those features as well. That's more like more involved, so you can refer to that. There's going to be a or actually the power cord's already attached. So now we're going to take out the kettle. So this is the stand with the cord. We'll put that aside. And then this is the kettle, the rest of the box, that's just, actually it comes with a descaler. Okay, so this is the kettle, this is the stand, this is the scaler, which is included. First impressions on the kettle, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. So it is white all the way across. It is a solid metal, okay? And it's got this glossy white finish all the way throughout. It is absolutely beautiful. It's well designed. It's virtually identical to the other one. The only difference is, if you look, the base here, because it's electrical, is a little bit taller. So it's virtually the exact same kettle. The only difference is the base is for the electrical kettle as compared to the stovetop. So it's a little bit shorter, but I believe the volume might be a little bit larger too, because this is, I think, 1 liter. As far as the spout, it's a very sturdy gooseneck spout. Is good ergonomically there. The handle's identical, so they really have this down. I like the accent of stainless steel here. It breaks it up a little bit where it's not all white, so it really emphasizes the handle, breaks it up. As far as the lid here, as you can see, it's virtually identical, 3 holes. Has the spout that's virtually identical too. All right. And then it has the same insert where there's a screw here and this prong here that keeps it secure. So it snaps into place, stays, and pops in and out easily. This is what it looks like brand new, okay? And then this is a comparison of what it looks like, sorry if the lighting's a little bit dark, 5 years later. And I've actually never descaled or cleaned the inside like with a decalcifant. So even with the hard water I had on my old apartment, that doesn't look too bad. So I'll probably use descaler on this just to take advantage of it. So that's that. And then as far as the design, it has Brewista here, so if you compare, it's scratched up on this one compared to brand new. You can also see the steam off the T, which is really nice design. It's elegant. Has it on that side as well. And then on the side here, if you look, it says 1 liter. Oh, here, that's why. So you can, it's hard to see on the angle, but you can see it inside. So inside it says 1 liter, there's a line right at the top there, and then there's a minimum line, and it says SUS 304, which is I think the steel quality, stainless steel quality or type. But that's why it's on the outside opposite. I was like, why is it backwards? But it actually makes more sense because you can see on the inside. So when you pour it in, you can see, and you can see directly the quantity of water. One thing when you do pour over and stuff is you do have to calculate the ratio of water when you're brewing coffee. You can check out my other videos on that, but usually I use 15 to 17 grams of coffee, or 17 grams of water per gram of coffee, and that's the ratio I find is best. It depends on like my medium to dark roast, depending on what I have, but just keep that in mind. And then the bottom here is the components for the electrical component. It's very similar to the milk frother I have. You can check out that milk frother, but with all these electrical kettles and milk frothers, how it works is, we'll peel off the stand so I can show you directly. It'll go onto the stand like this, and that's what engages with the power cord plugged in to heat the kettle. And so with these, never, ever, 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 I cannot emphasize that enough, put water or soap or anything on the bottom of this, or get this wet on either the bottom or the top, because that's how you break it. Because a lot of people think like, oh, it's a kettle, I'll wash it and I'll put it in the dishwasher and clean it, and then you get this whole thing wet, and that's how you damage and break it. And once water's in here, it's damaged and you got nothing to do, like you can't use it again. So I had a milk frother like that where I actually did that, accidentally got water like poured into it, and it broke within a day, even though like it was working functionally for 2 years. So don't get this wet. But same thing on the bottom here, don't get this wet here, but that's how it engages in here, and that's how it gets secured. This is what it looks like on the stand. So the stand itself has a glass surface, as they said. So it's a tempered glass all across. This is not plastic, which is very, very elegant and nice. And that also means that any spill you can clean very easily because it's tempered glass. The one thing is just be careful when you put it on to not slam it on because you could potentially break it. Granted, the plastic here keeps the lip up so that when you put it on, you don't like slam it. But the biggest thing I would think is if you don't have this on the counter or you're moving it and you drop it, you might be able to crack it that way. Now what we'll do is we'll plug it in and we'll walk through the main features of this. Okay, so the instruction manual, before you do use it, did recommend that you put a liter of water into this and then boil it completely, pour it out, and then do the same thing again twice. So we'll walk through that process. But I'll try to use this as an example. So as far as the base, hopefully you can see this. So the on-off button turns off immediately and on. It beeps. It's super nice and elegant with the tempered glass. You can see all the icons, and the icons are actually underneath, so they're only illuminated. There's not actually a button. This is a smooth surface for everything. And so it's all touch. And that's a really elegant, nice feature. Like that's just like a superb quality there. And so you touch there. There's going to be the temperature icon here is the current temperature, but it's flashing because it's not set. And then so the current temperature from the tap water is 77 degrees. There's going to be a timer icon here, which I believe if you lift up, you can time it. So you hit the timer here, and then automatically it starts timing it. All right. And I'm sure if you tap it, it stops it. So if you stop, you can start, and let's see. So if you tap it, it stops, and then it resets it. There's not a, it doesn't look like there's a restart way. There might be, I'll have to look at the manual. But basically if you, once you start it, you tap it again and that'll stop it, and then it'll go back to zero. Your temperature setting. And so what you do is you raise the temperature, and I'm hoping that you can just touch it and it'll automatically go, and you don't have to tap it, but it looks like you have to tap it. So it's very touch responsive. So as you can see, you have to tap it, which is nice in a way because it allows you to really just customize it and pick one temperature. The drawback though is you do have to tap it a lot, which is kind of annoying. But it can go up to 220 degrees, 140 to 220. All right, it's not actually running now, I think. I'll check. Yeah, I think it is automatically heating by hitting the temperature icon because the red light turns on. So that's one consideration, is that once you have it, like you hit that, it's heating. So the temperature is up to 92. So that's a way to do that. And then you can reset it if you go by just going back down. So depending on the temperature you want, you can adjust it very easily. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this off entirely and turn it back on, and then hit this button again, and it automatically defaults to your last setting, so it's still set at 204. So it has a memory feature built in, so that allows that too, which is really cool. So the minus here, plus here as far as the temperature. Once it's heating, if you touch this, it doesn't adjust it. So if you're looking, I'm hitting the plus minus, it doesn't change the temperature. So this is basically inactive here. It's only when you press that you can change it or adjust it. And then I'm sure if you press this, it'll set it maybe, or it'll just automatically blink and probably stop blinking. Yeah, so it stops blinking, and then this is no longer active. So they've really thought that out. And then this emblem here, which has like the slight steam, is actually the warm feature. So what happens is once you hit whatever temperature you're at, you can just keep it warm and it'll maintain that for a period of time afterwards. So that's a nice feature as well, because say you boil the water, you walk away, you brew some tea or something, or you want an additional cup, you can keep the water directly at the temperature you need and then come back, and you don't have to like reboil it and wait for that process. So that's a nice feature. You can turn it off at any time. And then this is going to be the fast steam icon. So this is it should speed it up faster. I don't know the difference between it. I'd have to look at the manual there, but there's a fasting feature. And if you look, the temperature is actually accelerating a little bit quicker. So it's going like 2 degrees every second or so, which is pretty fast. And then lastly, the icon here is either changing it to Celsius or Fahrenheit, depending on where you live or what temperature you want. I actually think for a lot of times Celsius is easier. It's way smarter than the Fahrenheit system because it's not very intuitive. But Celsius, it would be 100 degrees as far as boiling. Okay, so I did what they instructed, which was basically fill it up to 1 liter, boil it all the way to 100 degrees, pour that out, wait 1 minute, and then repeat the process again. And then I've already put 1 liter of water in here. In the meantime, I grabbed everything for making inaugural pour over coffee with this setup. And so what we'll do here is we're going to decrease the temperature to 96 degrees. Really, it could be 90 to 96, but 96 corresponds with 205 degrees, which is my normal setup. And then we'll walk through in the meantime, as that's heating, prepping the coffee, because typically with the Artisan kettle on the stovetop, I'll basically put it on the stove and then start prepping and making coffee all at the same time. And so as it's boiling, I usually set everything up that I need. And so first off, what we want to do is, this is the Zassenhaus hand grinder. It's the Santiago model. This is their burgundy with gold edition. I haven't really found another one of these as far as the color option, but they also have this in black and like a light blonde wood color. But this has I think it's like a 25-year warranty, or I might be misspeaking, 30-year warranty on the burr mechanism. And so I highly recommend this hand grinder. It's really nice, elegant. And then we're using just basic Trader Joe's Colombian coffee. I picked this up the other day when I was at Trader Joe's. For times where I'm just making like a quick on-the-go coffee, or like if I'm grinding just to make French press or something like that, I tend to use something like this. And then when I'm kind of sitting on the weekend or something, then I tend to make use something a little bit more exotic. But as it's already at 58 degrees, but we're gonna just grind this coffee, and I just fill this all the way to the top. Okay, so that's fully ground. With the Zassenhaus, it has an adjustable method here. So if you ever use this, I just hold it like this and then do it that way, and you have to keep your fingers from underneath it, but it's nice from that standpoint. Now in the meantime, this is the Timemore Black Mirror Plus. It's got a power button on the side. We'll turn that on. Make sure it tears at 0, and then we're going to put, this is the Bodum pour over thing. I haven't ever gotten anything fancy because I've had the Bodum for quite some time, and I've had this process kind of down for years, so I don't really want to mess with it. But I put that on, and then basically just put a wet filter on here. I don't bother with letting it drip out and pour out. It's almost boiled. It's at 95 degrees, so it's actually at the temperature. So I'm going to hit the warming feature just to have it. But I put the filter on. There's not really any water, but you could basically empty this out if you really wanted to, but there isn't. This is usually like 7 to 8 as far as the weight. We'll hit this, tear it. Okay, so now it's at 0. So now it's at temperature. Now what we do is we just pour this all in here, all right, and top this, okay, and then with the Zassenhaus, a lot of coffee ends up on the back there. And then if you ever want to, you can clean it out, and I have an espresso brush for that. And so the espresso brush helps clean out all the residual, or if you want to just clean it up over time. And so the weight for this is exactly 30 grams, okay? So as far as the weight for this, this coffee here from Trader Joe's, usually I do like 17. And so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do 30 times 17, and that gives you the quantity of water. So it's gonna be 480 grams of water. So now the temperature of the water, it's up to temperature, which is about the time it took to set this all up, which is kind of corresponding with the Artisan kettle on the stovetop. Now what we do is on the Black Mirror Plus, you can tap this, all right? And that allows it set up where when you start pouring, it'll measure the weight. Simultaneously, sorry, it just reset. Let me just reset it because I moved it so it automatically triggered it. Now what we're gonna do is this auto starts as far as pouring, but in the meantime I'm gonna start here, the timer, just to see how it corresponds. But this gives you a good example of the control you have with the Brewista kettle. Like, so I can just do dribbles with this in little amount of water, or I can accelerate it where I'm pouring full blast. But you do have a ton of control. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but you can basically pour as much water as you want very easily. And so what I do is I pour it to about like where it's foaming up a little bit. Oh, sorry, the timer didn't start. So we'll use this one. This is at 34 seconds now. So the benefit of this is it has a timer there. This one's weight-based, so once you usually start pouring, it'll automatically trigger it to start the timer. But we're gonna sit here till about like 45 seconds to a minute, allow that to fully steep and activate the grinds. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pour the weight, which I don't have the weight here now because I deactivated it, but this is usually about 150 grams. And then we're gonna pour the rest to our 480. And so I just do small circular movements. I kind of stay away from the filter on the sides and just pour it very closely in circles and make sure that it's wet and like completely like saturating the ground beans. And then with the Bodum pour over coffee maker, depending on how much coffee or how much fluid you need, I think it's around like 600 or 650 is the limit for this. And so if you find like you're making a lot more because the capacity is really low, sometimes you reach the top and then you just have to stop and pour a little bit more. So right now we are at 404. I poured a little bit extra because I was distracted, but we're done with the kettle. And so now we'll let this fully brew through, okay? In the meantime, what I typically do is while this is happening, I'll take out my milk frother, okay? This is the Starument one. I've done a prior review on this, but basically it's got a hot foam method, a hot max foam, hot like decent foam, a heating method, and a foaming method without warming it. And then what I'll do is I'll just pour this in. I use oat milk because I'm vegetarian / vegan. There's a min and a max in here, and then you can just turn this on, press the button, and it takes about 2 minutes to fully froth. And so as this coffee's brewing, now I got the frother going, and then we'll let all these kind of run at this point. Okay, so the water is almost run through all the way on the coffee brewer. And if you watch here, the frother at 2 minutes will automatically turn off here. You may or may not see it on camera. But what I do with this is, because I use the filter with the Bodum, it is very easy to clean up. So I basically just take this and I usually throw it in my compost bin. But for the sake of this video, I'm gonna just throw it in the sink because the compost bin is way back. And then they have a plunger here that goes on the top so you minimize spilling, and there's a lip here so you can just pour directly into whatever cup. In this case, we're using the Andrew Rock YouTube cup because there is one and it exists. There's only one in existence. I was gonna market them and start selling them, but then it seemed like a process, so I didn't do that. We can turn that off, and then if you look at the milk frother now, the light's turned off, so that means it's fully at the point of frothing it. And so if you look here, this is oat milk fully frothed, and there's a good quantity. I had like probably about that much, but it froths it really well. And then you can pour this in here. Usually there's a lot extra, so depending on how much coffee I make, I kind of pour it into there and then go about using more, or try to drink a little bit and then add more froth into it later on. But that's all I have for this video. So that's my entire coffee setup. The electric kettle, the Brewista kettle, is phenomenal. I absolutely love it. The control and elegance of it as far as the design, construction, the thoughtfulness, the tempered glass, everything, the white on white appearance is amazing. I cannot speak highly enough about the stovetop version of this, so if you want a stovetop version, go for it. You'll have no regrets. Either one of these you'll absolutely love. And then my plugs for the other things I've discussed in other videos at times is the Zassenhaus Santiago, Timemore Black Beer Plus, Bodum Bistro pour over maker, and then the Starument milk frother. But thanks for watching. If you have questions, comments, post them below. But I'm super excited, happy I shared you this first brewing experience with the electric kettle, and I cannot wait to use it more.